Okay, hi, it's Paul Green from the business community doing another one of our regular Spotlight on. And today I'm joined by Chris Lambert from DataSense. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Paul. How you doing?
Not bad, mate, not bad. So, for some reason, Chris decided to come back again. I'm not sure whether he thought the last one he did was crap or whether it's just his intention to try and get on the cover of the Business Bulletin magazine, which some of the people on the Spotlight on interviews do. Your thoughts, Chris?
Oh, it's definitely the magazine. Having seen ML's or Marie Louise's fantastic spread on the photo. Sorry, let's maybe put that another way. Fantastic photo on the front of the magazine. I thought, who better to follow ML's fantastic photo than my mug?
Never going to happen. Anyway, so I will start off with the normal question. If you can just give us well, actually, just introduce yourself and let people know who you are and what you do.
All right, for those who don't know me, which is probably very few outside of the business community, I'm Chris. I'm the technical director for DataSense. I think the last time I was on here, I was running Blue Sky Computer Solutions. DataSense is an IT managed service provider covering cybersecurity, the standard turning computers on and off support type stuff, GDPR and telecoms and infrastructure.
And that's your care in the background, yeah?
And yes, just to the side here is our apprentice, Ben, who makes the tea, answers the phone, and Jenny just runs around doing all the shit we don't want to do.
Good man. Well done, Ben. So tell us a little bit how you got to be where you are today, because you've been doing this for quite a while.
Yeah, so I've been running my own businesses on and off now for 17 years. Basically got fed up with the corporate life, got fed up with the kind of, I suppose, being in a bit of a dead-end job for a local, it's a national delivery company, but they're not your kind of DPDs. They're a more secure company. They deal with passports, credit cards, that type of stuff. Got kind of stuck in a rut. I was enjoying some of what I did. There was just no progression in the company. And it was just banging my head against the brick wall constantly with users who didn't read manuals, didn't listen to instructions, and 3 a.m. phone calls. So I decided to quit the corporate life, give it a go on my own. Kind of fast forward a couple of years, I went from being sole trader running RA Computers to merge into Blue Sky Computer Solutions, which is a sister company of a local print company. So I was effectively their IT manager, but still retained the independence to do my own business. That went really well for 11 years. And then about 2 years ago, got approached about a merger to help grow my business again, which is kind of how I got into Blue Sky. I was at the point where I wanted to move to that next level, but it was either acquisition or merger. And merger seemed the most likely option, given I could bring on extra services as well. And then through the pandemic last year, we managed to finalize everything. So between the manicness of running an IT company in the middle of a pandemic where everyone needs IT, we did manage to complete the merger. And here I am since April 1st, ironically, since April 1st in DataSense as the technical director.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about how did you go about choosing who to work with then? Was that an easy process, or what was the criteria for working out who would be best to partner up with?
It actually started out with a random phone call. I'd actually done a couple of days' work for a telecoms company in Northampton, and then they contacted me out of the blue to go and work for them, kind of take my business into them. Unfortunately, they were a sales team of 12 people and 1 engineer. So I didn't really want to become the next burnt out engineer working for them. But doing the usual asking around people who were in the know, I got chatting to Rob Wright at BTT about the other telecoms company, explained why I was asking, and he hadn't heard of them, which is a bit of a warning sign if you're in a telecoms industry and people don't know your brand from that point of view. But he was also in talks with Dean, who's the cybersecurity director for DataSense, about a potential merger. So we kind of, the 3 of us came into the fold, and then ironically enough, through BuzzCom, I met Gail at Delapre Golf Course, one of the breakfasts there. We did an event together, myself, Gail and Dean, tail end of 2019. It's November, December time. Got on really well. Dean and I got chatting and said we really liked what Gail could do. So she was again looking to merge with an IT company for the GDPR side of things. So we brought her into the fold. And then Gail's kick-ass approach to keeping us boys in line got everything signed on the dotted line, like I say, middle to end of the summer last year.
Okay. And the main driving force was, did you feel as being independent that you'd reached a capacity and that was it? So unless you started to bring on staff or, as you say, acquire another company, that this just seemed to be the next logical step to sort of like expand your business?
Yeah, exactly that. I was, my days weren't necessarily always maxed out with work, but they were pretty close to it. And the rest of the time was the admin and getting quotes done. So paid work was pretty much maxed out. So yeah, the only way to get past that point was either take on staff, but of course you then need the salaries. You need to be able to fund the salaries for staff, which means you've got to very quickly bring on extra work to cover their salaries. Or looking at buying another business, but that in itself brings on its own problems, because anyone who's looking to sell an IT business, certainly in the last 18 months, has really got some serious issues with their IT business. So it would have been trying to run my own business and try and fix the problems of another business to make it and keep it profitable. So again, it wasn't a logical option. Whereas the merger side, with 4 independents coming in, there's less hassle. None of us at the time had staff, so we didn't have the headache of staff. And sorry, Ben, but staff had a headache. He's sniggering in the background because he knows it's true. So yeah, the merger was the logical sense, and since then it's just been on the up. Work's increasing, which is great. I can bump bits off to other people when I haven't got the time to do them, and I can focus on the core parts of my aspect of the business.
Yeah, makes sense. So do you guys have like an exit strategy? Because sometimes, there's various schools of thought that, when you start a business, or I guess this is a new business to an extent, that you start with the end in mind. So, looking at what the exit strategy is it a 5-year thing, 10-year thing? Is that something that you guys have discussed, or where are you at with that sort of view?
Yeah, we discussed it in I think it was in the very first directors meeting when we kind of signed on the dotted line, that the idea was to make data centers a multi-million-pound business within 5 years, and then look at it at that point of whether we, as individual partners of the business, want to sell up or carry on and possibly buy out the other people. So for myself, 5 years time, I'll be 49. It'd be nice to suddenly get £1 million in my pocket for the business, but I've then got to find something to do. So for me, it's probably a slightly longer plan, in that I'd rather be involved in doing something than not. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
You're just a young whippersnapper, aren't you?
I am.
So what's quite interesting to me, and I think this is the case, on your business journey, have you ever, I don't think you've ever had a coach or a mentor or somebody like that. Is that true, or is that just a myth that I've created in my head?
It's a bit of both, if I'm honest. To say I've never had a coach or mentor would be inaccurate. Like yourself, I've met people who I got a lot of information from, being able to bounce ideas off of, and that's really helped with the business development over the years. But no, I've never actually paid for a business coach or mentor. So to some extent, I've never had a full-time one, no. But there's people that I know I can talk to about things, and they can come up with some other way of thinking on whatever the problem is or whatever I'm trying to achieve, and get their thoughts on it.
So you've never paid for one. Is that because you're too tight, or you just don't see the value of having a coach or a mentor?
I do see the value. It is absolutely valuable. And I do see coaches and mentors as 2 very different things.
Yeah, they are.
I would say it probably comes down to that good old thing of money. I see the value, and like I say, I've had a lot of success with discussing things with mentors and coaches. It's probably just too tight, really. Probably too tight.
That was the crux of it, really, wasn't it? So I know that what has helped you since you started your business journey a few years ago, networking has been quite valuable for you. So how have you gone about sort of choosing networking groups? And are they all the same, or are there differences that you prefer?
No 2 groups are the same, regardless of them being the same branding. You know, there's no two business community groups that are the same. They're all run the same. The structure's all the same. But if you go along to a Daventry group and you go along to a Northampton group or a Wellingborough group, they're all very different. You know, the people who drive them from the front, like Kevin, ML, Stephen Church, and yourself, you all do it very differently within that same structure. So no, there's no two are the same, even under the same branding, and that goes across the board for the likes of BNI for the greater good and anything else really. They're all very different. How I pick the right ones, probably a bit scattergun approach. I've tried a lot of everything, and then the ones that I found where I've made good connections, met worthwhile people, I've stuck with.
Okay. And do you think networking has evolved or will evolve? Because obviously for the last 18 months or so, we've been plunged into virtual. Now face-to-face is starting to come back on stream. I mean, do you think there's any, well, just that, do you think there's anywhere for networking to go? Will this sort of like hybrid continue? Will virtual gradually die? Will face-to-face not come back as strong as it did before because people can't be asked to get out of bed in the morning or whatever? What are your thoughts on it?
Over the last 17 years, has it evolved? Absolutely. Probably some of that viewpoint is because I've tried different groups over that time and they've all been that little bit different in their structure. But everything evolves over time. You know, you go from the very formal stuff where everyone was, you know, breakfast, shirt and tie and a jacket through to more casual events. And I've seen that evolve over time. Going forward, I think face-to-face still has a big part to play in it. And I think that we'll see a lot more people go in that way. But equally, I think virtual's got a big part to play. You know, you can spread out across those wider areas. Certainly if you've got a product like we have, we don't have to necessarily be in front of the client all the time or even any of the time. Mm-hmm. You know, some clients, they're a couple of hours drive away, but everything we do is predominantly remote for them. So we can pick up clients anywhere across the globe. Where I think it will end up, and I know Adam Payne has got a similar product. When I was down at the DTX show at Excel a couple of weeks back, I got chatting to a VR company, and they have a fully immersive networking experience where you put your headset on and you're in a complete virtual room. I mean, it's the next step on from Zoom because it is a full 3D environment, and you interact with people that way. But those people can be anywhere in the world.
Yeah. No, I've seen a platform that Adam uses. Adam does a networking meeting 1:30 each Friday. So Adam Payne, you'll find him on Facebook, and I know the platform he uses. You can just use it on a screen, but it does have the capability for sort of plugging into virtual as well. So yeah, it's an interesting platform. So you tend to the best of my knowledge, you tend to choose the networking groups that have more of a structure to them as opposed to the mix and mingle. Is that because you think structured networking is better, or it's just your preference, or how have you come about going to those styles of networking meetings?
I've probably fallen more into attending ones with structure, certainly with the BNI, BuzzCom, the Federation of Small Businesses to some extent, which are the key ones I do. They all have structure, but I have done the more informal ones, but they're such a harder slog to get to know people. At least with the formal ones, you've got a structure. You know that you're going to get. In your case, you'll get a 10-minute with someone in the room, and then you obviously follow it up outside of the room, and you'll follow up other one-to-ones with people outside of the room. But with those informal ones, it's so much harder to get into that bit of talking to people. And you don't see them as often. Then they might turn up for one, and then you don't see them for another 3 months.
Yeah. Now BNI, for those that don't know, that's sort of a lockout group, which means there's only one per sector at each meeting. What do you see? Is that better than sort of like groups that don't have a lockout, or just different? What's your view on that?
It's different. In some ways, it does mean you're likely to get more work. I know you think you join a lockout group, you're going to get all the IT work in the room. It's not true, and if anyone ever tries to sell you that on a networking approach, then it's wrong. But then equally, I do like to be in groups where there is multiple people doing the same service, because as much as I know about IT, I don't know everything. And if I need to find someone who I go to help with a project, I've done this in the past with a certain, well, now expert BuzzCon member. If I need help with a project, I'm going to pick someone I've networked with. If I'm only doing lockout, I'm not likely to meet those other people. It's all very well to go on a global app and do a search, but you don't know the person who's at the other end. You're just relying on, because they're in the group, they're a good person. It's not necessarily the case, and probably very rarely is the case.
Yeah. No, I get that. So outside of the business world, you're quite heavily involved in the Rotary. So just tell people a little bit about what the Rotary is, how you got involved, and maybe why people should consider getting involved in that.
How I got involved involved lots of alcohol. But before that fateful night, I was actually at a client's. He used to own a nightclub / bar restaurant in Northampton called Bibliotech, and they were putting on a networking event for ladies. I think the following day or the day after that I was in there, and I got chatting to one of the ladies. She was going to do a fashion show. She at the time ran a dress agency called Butterflies in Northampton, which is still going. And she just needed some help with the music. So I said, yeah, I can pop down, show you how to use the equipment, and go from there. And if you do need me to come in, then I can see if my diary's free and come down and help on the day. From that, she was then put on a charity event for the air ambulance. So needed a little more. So she needed the overhead displays for what the, I don't want to say what the season was, but the kind of, they had a central theme for each part of the show. So I did all that. I did the music. I then unfortunately had to go and spend many an evening in rehearsals with loads of models walking up and down a catwalk, which
awful.
You cannot believe how awful that is.
No, it's a dirty job. Someone's got to do it.
It's a very dirty job, and unfortunately, I had to do it. So that event went really well. Raised a lot of money for the air ambulance, and she took myself and a couple of the other people out who had helped for a meal at some restaurant in town. I think possibly Pizza Express or something like that. As you can imagine, the drinks were flowing. It was all paid for by her, which is really nice.
Yeah, you usually drink more when someone else is paying, Chris, won't you?
Oh, absolutely. And why wouldn't you? I'm looking forward to Judy Futcher's event in a couple of weeks, just to help her clear the cupboard out.
Why not?
She was heavily involved in the main Northampton Rotary Club, and they was currently at the time setting up a new one in Northampton aimed at the younger people. I mean, most people's perceptions of Rotary is a lot of old guys sat around in suits at a table having dinner and putting their hands in their pockets to raise money for charity, which is fine if that's what you want to do. There's still clubs that are very much like that. But the new club was aimed at younger people, families who didn't want to do the traditional view of Rotary and wanted to be more hands-on. I'd been in the business world for a couple of years at that point. So it's a kind of a way to give back to the community, meet new people and new faces, which is always good as well, and go from there. And then I started that in, what would have been 2007.
Okay.
And now kind of fast forward, I've been in Rotary or involved in Rotary now for 14 years through a couple of different clubs. But ultimately, it's about giving back either locally to your community. We did an event at Western Favour a couple of weeks back. We've got another one in December. We've done some work at the Wildflower Meadow down in Toaster. We did an event down in Southampton, which is completely out of our area. I personally didn't attend it because some of the other members went down there. But I've done charity big breakfasts, kind of £10 all you can eat, quiz nights, whiskey tasting nights, which are always a firm favourite, certainly with me. And that's just to raise money for local charities and community groups. But equally, I could get involved in stuff globally. The big Rotary ones ending polio. We're now down to, I think, about 3 countries where polio is still out in the wild as a disease. And we help the WHO with their vaccine program. We can volunteer and go out there for a couple of weeks and help vaccinate people, which sounds awful about having untrained people going to jab people with needles, but it's not. It's the oral drop on the tongue, and that's it.
Okay, so no jabbing involved. So, so how else do you entertain yourself then when you're not working?
And the times when I'm actually not working.
What other hobbies do you have?
You mean other than the alcoholism?
Yeah, of course.
A couple of years back, stranger again through a business event, I met a guy called Gordon Gaze who runs On Target Range in Northampton. I got chatting about work, did a few bits for him, kind of went up there for a networking event. I put a network on event up there with Sheila Smith for about a dozen people. Just a bit of networking, bit of breakfast, and a bit of shooting. Kind of got the bug. Went back a few more times, ended up buying my own rifle. I'm now several rifles in and spend most Saturday mornings at the range, just taking out my frustration on paper targets at the other end of the range.
Yeah, so there's no pictures on these targets that you're specifically shooting at, Chris, are there?
Currently, no.
Just images in your mind.
Just in my mind currently, we have done, it's probably not the best time to say it, but certain members of Parliament who are PMs, because we just needed a laugh, and he was just making a mockery of everything that was going on. So he for one Saturday morning became the paper target.
Interesting. So is that something that you do competitively? Is there a sort of a competitive element to it, or is it just for fun?
It's a bit of both. We do occasionally have competitions run by On Target, and there's a group of us who go up on a Saturday morning and we'll set up our own little competition for a couple of months. But outside of that, it's generally for fun. It's just a nice way to go up, socialise, and a bit of stress relief.
And this is sort of just indoor shooting. You've got no plans to actually go sort of like outdoor shooting. I don't mean people. I mean sort of official shooting events outdoor.
No, I am very much an indoor shooter. I just enjoy being in the warm with an easy cup of tea just over the other side of the wall at the calf. But no, I would happily go and do it outdoors if the weather was right and it was the competition right. Again, it's a very different style of shooting. Indoor range, there's no crosswinds, there's no weather to take into account. You're just firing down a lane. Outdoors, it's a lot more in depth and a slightly different skill set. So yeah, I'd absolutely do it. It's never really come up as a chance to do it.
Okay, and so remind me the name of the place and where it is in Northampton.
On Target, up on Brackmills. It's on targetrange.co.uk, I think it is.
Okay, so if that's what people are into or want to find out, if they are into it, then check it out.
Yeah, I've had a couple of one-to-ones up there. Myself and Stephen Lambert. He rocks up 24 hours early for a one-to-one.
Okay.
So as I have on my desk a couple of tin, or actually empty tins from pellets, which I use for the odd screws and bits that I find from dismantling PCs. Saw that, asked about it. We went up there the next day, had the one-to-one over an hour on the range. He ended up buying a rifle.
Oh, so, cool.
If anyone ever fancies a one-to-one at the range, just give me a shout.
Excellent. So back to the business side then. There's obviously a number of different IT companies out there. So what would you say is your edge? What distinguishes you guys from anybody else that's offering similar services?
I could go down all the usual generic USPs that people put out. We no fix, no fee, we're competitively priced, blah, blah, blah. What makes us unique? There's the 4 or 5 of us in the company. We're not working for any, well, aside from Rob, we're not technically working for any other company. That's what makes us unique. Why do people come back to us? They appreciate the honesty, good service, competitive pricing, and us as people. They enjoy working with us.
Yeah. So on that then, I had a bit of a bad experience with another IT company where I felt we were sort of being ripped off in terms of job that was in hand. And obviously we invited you in and you sorted it out very professionally, efficiently and competitively. So unfortunately, I guess for want of a better expression, there still are a few rogue traders out there. How do punters get away from that? Or how do they distinguish those people that aren't necessarily going to provide them a competitive or professional service?
This is going to be a little counterintuitive to this situation you've mentioned, but I would say start by looking at price, and try and stay away from the likes of Facebook when asking for people, because you'll get people who literally will do a big computer job for 20 quid, basically beer money, and those people will disappear the minute you've got a problem with work they've done. You'll pay your money over, and then they'll just do a disappearing act. It's not the same for everyone on a Facebook, of course not, but if you're paying £20 for someone to repair your computer, chances are it's a hobby. They don't have insurance and not registered as a business. They're not paying tax on that. It's purely them doing it as a hobby. And they're the people to watch out for. You should realistically be looking, if you're getting someone to fix a computer, as an hourly rate, £45 plus. It sounds a lot, and in the times when prices are on the rise for everything, that's £45 really is the lower end of the market. But you'll get someone who's paying the taxes. They are insured. They will pick up the phone if there's a problem with the work they've done. And it's the same for businesses. It's not necessarily go for the first person you speak to either. Ask around, get second opinions on jobs. If it's urgent, it's maybe not as quick and easy as phoning up a couple of people, but I'm always at the end of the phone if someone wants to pick up the phone and just say, we've been given this quote to do this work. What do you think? I'll give an honest opinion. I won't be trying to steal the business, of course, but it'd be nice to steal it, but that's not the reason I do it. I just want to make sure that people are getting the right service for the right money.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Jamie's just said hi. Hi, Jamie, if you're still listening. Thanks for tuning in.
Hey, Jamie, how you doing?
So, so thanks for that. So, yes, it's always worth getting a comparison, because I guess, to a certain extent, IT can be a bit of a black art, particularly now, with all the sort of potential cybercrime out there and stuff. It seems to be getting more complex and more risky than it used to be a decade ago. So it is useful to know that, someone is there to sort of sense check things, so you're not being ripped off, because, people can jump on the bandwagon, with no disrespect to you guys and what Gail does with GDPR. I know when the deadline first came, that loads of people were popping up as GDPR experts and basically sort of like selling their services for basically what you could get off the ICO website. So, it's just one of those things. So I think there's going to be a little bit of that, where people are jumping on the cyber bandwagon and not necessarily knowing what they're doing.
Oh, absolutely. We've already seen it with people. They claim to know what they're doing with cyber stuff, and actually, when it comes to the crunch, what they're doing is little more than just turning on an electronic switch on a router or a firewall and walking away and charging a lot of money for it. And that ultimately, again, they don't have the training, and there are certificates, certainly for cybersecurity. You want to be seeing what certificates they've got, of making sure they know what they're doing, because you get cybersecurity wrong, you can lose literally everything, not just your business, your finances. It's crazy what you can do if you're inclined to do it.
No, absolutely. So be wary out there, guys. So you're going to share a few tips from us, from your vast experience and knowledge. So I'm going to put you in solo mode, so you can do that, and I'll see you back on the other side in a couple of minutes.
Cheers, Paul. So a couple of tips. Well, it's a difficult one because, again, it's such a vast topic, and I don't want to go down the whole route of the IT repair side of things, because it's not fantastically exciting with your switching stuff on, off and on again, which does solve a lot of problems, by the way. But the things to look out for with cyber stuff, and probably actually the key thing to do, especially if you've got staff, is train them. There's an organisation down in London. They're part of the London Police Force. They cover the square mile city of London, called Cyber Griffin. They run a couple of sessions, absolutely free for anyone who wants to go and sit through them, and they are really good. I've done both sessions myself just to get a feel for what they're like. Get your staff trained. Get yourself trained. You might think you know how to spot a dodgy email, but within the business community a couple of weeks back, 2 or 3 people that I thought were cyber aware all fell victim to the same scam. Email comes in, they click through too many links, put over details, username, password, which is generally email and password, and suddenly their account sending out these phishing emails as well. So just get yourself trained, focus on what's doing, and don't be too click happy and question everything. which again, same the cyber risk team down in London will tell you, is question everything you see. If it's something that's too good, too believable, then just double check it. And if you're not sure, ask an expert. I've got one client, they one of their clients actually had their emails intercepted, and they lost, I think, about £24,000 for these two girls, which is currently going through the process of the banks to get recovered. But had they questioned, as they were told to, the bank account details where they were transferring the money, then they would have saved themselves a lot of hassle, heartache, and headaches. So yeah, definitely get yourself trained and make sure you are really aware of what's going on. What else can I say security-wise? Really, if you're not sure, ask the experts. I don't mind getting an email from people saying, is this genuine? You know, what's your advice? What do you think of this offer, this email I've received? It's generally quite easy to spot things. I don't claim to have 100% accuracy on it, because I do occasionally go so far I think, actually, no, this is a scam and stop. But definitely ask the experts. And probably the final good tip is be wary of what you post on social media. I've seen a lot of people I respect answering these quizzes online. You know, where were you born? How far do you live from the place you was born? What's your pet's name? And they're willingly putting up all these answers, and that every one of those is a security question, or the route to getting the answer to a security question. So again, just be very, very wary of what you're posting on social media, especially Facebook and these stupid quizzes that people, I say, just want to answer because they want to comply with what they see in front of them. So that's probably my key tips there for cyber.
Yeah, that makes sense. I see them pop up all the while, and a lot of my friends sort of like do them. They are a bit odd. So it looks like you might have a job from Jamie then, because his stepson wants to put water cooling in his PC, but he wants to DIY it, and Jamie's not so sure. So you might want to get in touch, see if you can help him out.
I'll drop you a LinkedIn message later on, Jamie.
So final thing then, and I'm not sure whether this is your thing either. Business books. Do you read them? Have you ever read one? Is there anyone you recommend that you might have come in contact with on your journey?
Obviously and naturally, the one I do recommend is the one by the business community.
Small Business Toolkit, excellent, yes.
Yeah, very, very worthwhile. Lots of valuable information in there, and I've given a few away to people to help them where they've set up new businesses. I've read the E-Myth. I think everyone at some point in their life would have read the E-Myth if they're a business owner, because it's, I think, mandatory now. Even HMRC tells you to read it. It's literally the first book every business coach meant to tell you to read, and it's a good book. But past that, no, I generally don't. I tend to read books, unless I'm reading for pleasure. I tend to read books that focus around what I do for a living. So I'm currently reading a lot of cybersecurity stuff at the minute, more around the social engineering, getting into people's heads, seeing how they think about things and how they react to stuff, rather than the actual sit there and hacking. It's just I'm a bit more interested with the people side of it, which I know is unusual for an IT person who's normally an absolute recluse living in a dark cupboard somewhere. But I do enjoy the people aspect to it and seeing how they react to these things. Which again goes back to what I was saying with the Facebook posts. People see something, they feel they've got to comply by giving away security answers.
Yeah. It's an odd world we live in. Okay, well, thank you for your time today, Chris. I know that your time is valuable and you're out there fighting all these cyber criminals, so I won't keep you any longer. So we'll end the broadcast there. Thanks very much.
No worries. Thanks, Paul.